I probably should have listened to my gut a long time ago, but I didn't necessarily have the tools. Watching people get sicker and sicker despite the best medicine I know how to use is unfulfilling and not why I went into medicine at all. I wondered, was that going to be my legacy? Was that going to be the last time I saw my family? So for me, it's about impact, and it's about impact on a different level. I love the one-to-one doctor-patient relationship, don't get me wrong. But in the current medical model, it doesn't afford me the opportunity to give people what I think they need or what they're telling me they want. More importantly, I feel like there were probably times when I got the nudge. I either out of fear or out of conditioning didn't just realize that I wasn't ready to do all the things. Just listen for the stillness and know that you're not crazy.
Now, in today's episode, we have Dr. Patrice High, and Dr. Patrice is the founder of New Empowerment Health, and she is on a mission. Now, through her lifestyle medicine practice, she is helping people reclaim their health, but not through more prescriptions, through the power of intentional living. As a board-certified family medicine physician, Dr. Patrice gave everything she had to her patients. She was educating them, she was encouraging them, and she was walking alongside of them through their healing. But behind the scenes, she was burnt out, she was overwhelmed, and the traditional medical system almost killed her. Eventually, she knew that something had to change, and she made the bold decision to leave behind a path that she spent years building, to choose a path rooted in purpose, compassion, and transformation. In today's episode, Dr. Patrice opens up her mindset and helps us walk her through her journey from career to calling. She'll talk to us about the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine and the life-changing impact that she's making in the lives of her clients today, not only helping them survive, but helping them thrive. My name is Bianca Ariel, and you're listening to A Recalibrated Vision.
I've watched my patients get sicker and sicker, younger and younger, because that's just America, honestly.
Right.
And so the minute I figured out that there were things that we could do inherently for ourselves, because nobody's coming to save us, it became a no-brainer for me that there needed to be a pivot. And if I couldn't pivot within the situation that I was in, I was going to have to pivot out of my situation. And that's what I've done. Is it easy? No. Entrepreneurship is not something that's taught in medical schools at all. They don't want you to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
They want you to be a hospital worker. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But for me, I just got to a place where I knew I was going to get sick. And in fact, I did get sick. That was the real pivot. And let me answer your question about that.
Yeah.
COVID happened, right? We all had experiences during COVID. Well, I had COVID 3 times, 3 separate times. And the first time I had COVID, it was right around when the vaccine came out. So I was unvaccinated. And I was still somewhat overweight. I'm still a work in progress. And doctors don't know when to quit. We just don't know when to quit. We go to work sick sometimes, we not realizing that we're sicker than the patients we're seeing sometimes.
Oh, wow.
And so when I realized I had COVID, I went home. That was when they were making everybody stay home for 10 days. But as somebody who wants their inbox to be 0, I was still working, even though I was at home in bed and all the things. And I didn't even have enough sense to know that I shouldn't have even been doing that, because it's always about the patient.
Right.
So here I am on my sick bed, and I was not near as sick as I could have been, but I was sick enough that I was watching my patients around the 5th, 6th day either get better or get on a ventilator. So here I am around the 3rd or 4th day wondering if I'm going to be the ventilator person on the 6th day.
Wow.
And that was way worse than any symptom I had. And then the second time I had COVID, it was the following year. That now we were off for 5 days. And then subsequently the next year I had it again. And I was off for 5 days. But every time I had COVID, I wondered, was that going to be my legacy? Was that going to be the last time I saw my family? Was that going to be the last of the last? And did I really want my career to end in this way?
Wow.
And so COVID was very significant for a lot of people, but I think a lot of people had awakenings during COVID that we would have never had had it not happened.
Right.
And for me, it was a career awakening. Here I had this awakening with my baby in 2007, and I had gone back to the conventional medical model. I didn't work for a hospital system the whole time. That was just my most recent job. I'd worked for private entities before that. But it was just a different set of problems when you work for someone else, right? And someone else is sort of telling you how your day should go and all of the things. And I just wanted more time with patients. And I felt like they wanted more time with me for those foundational things. Because who doesn't want to know that you can do something for yourself?
Right.
Who doesn't want to know that? Who doesn't want less side effects? Who doesn't want to feel good in their skin? And that was the thing that lit me up. That was the thing that made medicine not so daunting anymore. It ignited a new fire that I didn't even know was there. I wasn't depressed, but I felt better when I treated my body better. I felt better when I slept. I lost more weight the weeks that I actually slept on purpose. And I felt like people needed to know those things.
Yeah.
And I wanted other people to feel those things.
Right.
And so that was when the pivoting started to happen is over that, I guess, 14-year period. I kept doing all the things because that's what I was taught to do. But more and more, I realized I want to be able to share these things with people. I want women, men, whoever, to understand that you have the inherent capacity to heal parts of yourself. And then it can be simple and practical. It doesn't have to be CrossFit and full-blown veganism and carnivorism and all of the things. And I found myself much more fulfilled in my job teaching people those things. My biggest problem was time.
Yes. So, when I hear people's stories from career to calling, like there's always this huge shift that actually, provides this awakening where you realize that you already have this knowing that you're meant for more and that you want to do more. But then it comes to the point where it's like, in order for you to actually make the physical shift, something dramatic has to happen to you in order for you to truly wake up and start to see your life and career in a different way.
Mhm.
And for you, that speaks volumes. Was literally, I mean, life or death, right? You said you don't want to end your career this way, but you're still focused on the work that you're doing, but this was actually your life, right?
Yeah.
This is your life. So, but you're still referencing it as your career. But for you as a human being, your life was going to end this way. And you're thinking, I don't want my career to end this way. So that in return is like, I have something that's already inside of me that I've been, pouring into, and it's time for me to truly activate that and really live the path that I'm supposed to live, right?
Yeah.
And so you starting to heal yourself, you see the importance of really having this information, and as a physician, as someone who cares for people, you knew that you needed to start something where you could provide what you were able to provide for yourself to others, and knowing that you couldn't do that in your old model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was just the beginning of the pivot. I feel like that was probably the biggest thing that
Hmm.
happened. But then, God closes a door and opens a window. That's just how it is.
Mm.
And there were some changes that occurred with my hospital system. They were changing sort of the model for how they wanted their contracts to be. And I have much respect for what they wanted as a hospital system. But I also am an only child with aging parents in Atlanta, near Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in their 80s now. And I couldn't see signing on for that pivot that the hospital was trying to make. Just knowing and watching what's coming down the pike for me. I don't have siblings. No, there's nobody else to do it. There's nobody, and I live about 3 hours from them. They're still very independent, and I'm super grateful for that. But in the next 5 to 7 to 10, I don't know what that's going to look like, and I needed to build a model that was portable. So my practice is a telehealth practice, and I partner with my PCP colleagues. So I want people to keep their doctor-patient relationships because people love their doctors. Most people don't go to a doctor that they hate. They
Mm-hmm.
don't.
Right.
And so I want them to keep that beautiful relationship. I want them to still get their labs and manage their meds and whatever. But for me, the lifestyle piece is the piece that they don't have time to do. I was them. I know how this works. And so my my desire is to build this beautiful team for a patient. Whereas
I love that.
whereas I
So,
can sort of take the lifestyle pieces that they don't have time to do
mhm.
in 60-minute visits to unpack, okay, what are your barriers? What do you have coming up? What are your goals? And let their PCP do what they do well. But the patient deserves both. And
Absolutely. I like that hybrid and that hybrid approach. So let's talk about New Empowerment Health. So let's go into it. So you are the founder of New Empowerment Health. So talk to us about exactly what you're doing and how you were able to kind of set up that referral process in order for patients to be able to still leverage their primary care physicians, but also get that additional support that they may be looking for.
yeah, so New Empowerment Health is really my physician led health coaching practice. And
Mhm.
so I take my doctor hat and I still use it, but I'm using it in a very different way.
Mhm.
Everyone who comes into this space has an assessment that occurs. And that assessment looks at all six of those pillars. It certainly asks about your,
What are the six pillars of lifestyle medicine?
yeah, sure. So, nutrition in terms of a whole food, plant forward diet,
Mhm.
physical activity in terms of exercise, managing stress, managing sleep, avoiding risky substances, whether that's tobacco, alcohol, what have you, or really substances or things that just don't serve your wellness.
Mhm.
And then, last but not least, social connection. So, those are the pillars of lifestyle medicine. And so, in this new space at New Empowerment Health, it all starts with a discovery call. That discovery call is really you end up with an assessment or a form that really asks like, what are your diagnoses? What meds are you on? What are your goals in the next 3 to 6, 6 to 12 months? What's your readiness to change? Where do you think, in terms of all of those pillars, that you struggle the most?
Mhm.
And then we get on a Zoom call or Teams call, whatever, virtual. I've just switched to Teams.
Mhm.
um, and we unpack that form and talk about what are you willing to do? What are you ready to do differently? How's your relationship with your PCP? And the
Mhm.
other piece of it is I really see myself as a connector because I
Mhm.
help patients navigate those 15-minute visits better as well. So, how do you show up for that visit so that you're not frustrated and your provider's not frustrated when they decide it's time to leave and you do the oh, by the way on the door?
Right.
Like, okay, how can we better set ourselves up to have a better communication during these visits?
Makes
And so
sense.
I find myself being a primary care consultant in that way on the front end. of, okay, when are you going back to your doctor? And okay, you might want to ask about this, this, and this, and this.
Hmm.
Um, did you sleep before? Did you plan accordingly so you could show up for your appointment on time? Like all of the things. So we start with that assessment. We sort of talk about the PCP thing within that as well. And if you're not happy with your PCP, we start to talk about why that is. Like maybe you're not following their recommendations because you don't like them in the first place.
Right. Right.
Or you have some sort of barrier, and we work through those things because your PCP can only help you if you let them.
Absolutely. So, what exactly describe lifestyle medicine for those who don't know?
Yeah, so lifestyle medicine is the largest growing uh, medical practice or a type of medicine in the country right now. And
Hmm.
it entails intensive prescriptions for those six pillars that I just talked about. So
Okay.
we're looking at how you fuel your body and what your goals are and how can we get you from point A to point B or point Z, so to speak.
Got it.
And we do that with each pillar. At least that's
So,
how.
what is the difference between lifestyle medicine, like holistic medicine, functional medicine?
Well, they all sort of touch each other.
Hmm.
They're, I mean, functional medicine looks at more root cause, but I feel like we're all sort of doing some of the same things. We're just all doing it with a different nuance.
Right. So, functional medicine is more hybrid, right? So they're
Mhm.
focusing on the root cause,
Yep. And
and
so
then we have lifestyle medicine, who is essentially like, as it says, it's focused on your entire lifestyle. But
yes.
for holistic medicine, I guess I'm not grasping the difference between holistic and lifestyle.
Yeah, whole I think it's hard to talk about holistic medicine. It's hard for me to talk about holistic medicine because as a DO, I've been taught to be holistic in my practice from day one.
Right.
And so I don't really know what a holistic practitioner is.
Right.
Because we were taught mind, body, and spirit. We were taught to look at the body that way from a DO standpoint. So I've really just taken my love of my holistic training and added lifestyle medicine to it because I didn't have that before.
Got it. And so, for lifestyle, to be certified in lifestyle medicine, do you have to be a physician?
No, you can
Okay.
be, no, there are lots of things you can be. You can be a physical therapist, you can be a nurse practitioner, you can be an RN, you can be you can be a lot of different things and be certified in lifestyle medicine.
So
Um,
essentially, the certification in lifestyle medicine is really just teaching you the pillars, right? How to educate your patients on what these pillars are and how to be able to identify any gaps or areas of improvement,
right.
and and then leverage your healthcare expertise in order to guide them to a better solution under all of these pillars. So essentially, what they're saying is to have a better overall health, your all of these pillars need to kind of coincide in a positive realm in order for you to maximize on, the your entire lifestyle.
Yes and no is the answer.
Okay.
So that was beautiful, by the way.
I'm just
But also, they're teaching you the science, the
okay, okay,
studies, and why lifestyle works.
okay.
And that is very different than anything you're going to learn holistically or and I can't speak to functional medicine because I'm not a functional medicine provider.
Hmm.
But that's the biggest thing that I see is it's not just teaching you that, kale has potassium. It's not that simple.
Right.
It's teaching people how to write a prescription for food for the hypertensive patient
Hmm.
and how to help them manage their plate, how to help them manage their movement, how to help them manage each one of those pillars in a way that serves their wellness on a cellular level. And it offers the opportunity for you to connect with someone in a way that they're not going to find in a conventional medical model. And so that's the value of lifestyle medicine. And yes, you teach them about all of those other things. But for me, that was the difference. I didn't know the science because where would I learn that? If I didn't go back and do a separate certification for that, because that
Is
was
it the
not a thing.
science of the disease or is it the science and studies around the way you're living your life, right?
It's the science and studies around how a whole food plant-based diet can change your outcomes.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
So
it,
nutrition. So the science and studies are amongst each of these pillars. So let's go through the pillars one more time. Give them to me again.
yeah, so nutrition in terms
So
of a whole food plant forward diet,
okay.
physical activity in terms of
Okay.
exercise and movement, purposeful
Okay.
movement,
Got it.
managing stress, mindfulness, yoga, those kinds of things, managing sleep,
Hmm.
and having restorative sleep from the standpoint of, yeah, we all sleep, but do we do it well? Most of
Hmm.
us are not sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night. Most of us are sleeping four and saying, yeah, I'm good. But
Right.
are you? Because we're seeing more dementia than we've ever seen. We're
Hmm.
seeing more cognitive decline at younger ages. And that is primarily food related, but also the things that we don't do for our bodies that our bodies still need.
Hmm.
Um, Avoiding risky substances like tobacco and alcohol. And then the power of positive social connection. When you think about cultures in the world, such as in the blue zones, that live long into their hundreds, they embody these lifestyle pillars naturally.
Hmm.
In America, we have to unlearn a whole lot to take on these
Yes.
pillars, right? And that's
Yes.
why it's so hard, and that's why people need support to
That
do those
is that you
things.
hit it right on the nail. It's more about because we have so we're on information overload. So we
Mhm.
have access to all of this education, all of this information, YouTube, social media, everything. It becomes overwhelming. Like one post says you can do this, you can eat this is good for you. The next post is like, no, this is not good for you. This is not like it's just so overwhelming. So essentially what you're telling me, there's this umbrella of pillars that have research, studies, and science that will help you essentially organize all of your pillars of what lifestyle and help you assess, and you have a physician who can help you assess all of these different categories in your life and help you almost unlearn the things that you were given right through society, and that's with everything,
Mhm.
in order for you to adapt and become the person that you want to be. And that's where you hit it on the head. It's the unlearning portion that is the most difficult because we learn every single day.
We do.
Uh, Another thing that stood out to me and what I haven't heard often is the social connection. So I know in the seven dimensions of wellness, there's all of these different pillars, not pillars, but essential dimensions in regards to wellness. But when you're talking about treating or healing, social connection, how important is that? I haven't seen that term pop up a lot when we're talking about healthcare
Yeah.
practitioners.
Social connection is so important. We were put on this earth to be social beings. We were not meant to be alone. That's why people struggled during COVID.
Mm,
That's why, Zoom became a thing. And that's
hmm.
why, a lot of people, more people died from loneliness during COVID than COVID.
Wow.
um, Especially if they had COVID on top of being lonely.
Hmm.
We are meant to be in community. We are
Hmm.
bred to be in community. And people thrive better in community. Like when you look at exercise as an example, there's group classes, and people thrive in group classes. Why do they thrive? Because everybody, most people are working towards a similar goal, and you have those shared connections, and those shared connections help us help each other to get to our goals. I mean, most people don't attain all their goals by themselves. Even doctors don't attain all their goals by themselves. If you think about medical school, you have, your mentors, you have your colleagues, you have your students, you have, you know, this the administrative person who smiles at you every day. We are meant to thrive in community.
Mm.
And that's the same in terms of our health. People who thrive in community are less depressed. People who thrive in community are less anxious. People who thrive in community are more likely to stick to a plan in that community. Um,
That is really powerful. I like that. Let's go. So, especially, yeah, after the pandemic and, Zoom and everything is virtual now, it's first of all, it's very surprising that you said more people died from loneliness than what? Than actual COVID?
I mean, within COVID.
Within COVID,
Yeah.
more people passed away from loneliness. So, what do you think? What are some of the suggestions that you are giving to your patients in order to help enhance their community?
Well, it depends. It depends on what they're talking about in the first place. Like
Hmm.
if some people are churchy people, some people just need to go be where other people are. Whether
Hmm.
that's as simple as walking in the grocery store and the person who's bagging your groceries or somebody who's in the cold aisle smiling at you. It
Hmm.
doesn't have to be like complicated.
Right.
I meet people where they are, and then we talk about what we can tweak and what we can do.
Hmm.
For some people, it's maybe they lost their church, maybe they left their church because it hurts, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And so sometimes it's a matter of helping people remember who they are. Like if you were always somebody, and I'm not a super churchy person, but I'm going to use that as an example. If you were always somebody who was maybe in the church in some way, and then for some reason you stopped going to church, maybe it was because of COVID. We all stopped going to church because of COVID, right?
Hmm.
And maybe you just never got reconnected. And now you have this health change that you'd like to make, but you don't have that connection. And that connection was important and integral to who you are. Sometimes it's just a matter of helping people plug back in or figure out what their needs are,
Hmm.
in order to help them get to the goal they're trying to get to. Because if you're depressed because you don't have a community or a friend or whatever that is, it's hard to get you to make positive change, behavioral change.
Hmm.
You can't have one without the other, not
Right.
successfully.
Right.
And I'm now in the business of taking people who just have some motivation,
Hmm.
whether it's a new diagnosis, whether it's looking at their family history. Like I looked at my family history, I was like, no, ma'am, no, sir, I don't want that.
Hmm.
So you have to have a why in order for anything to change in your life. But sometimes it's a matter of helping people actually stop a minute and think about that why
Hmm.
and unpack how important is that why to you and what are you willing to do to get to it? And how can we help you get there? I don't expect people to be perfect. New Empowerment Health is not about being perfect. I'm not perfect. I don't engage lifestyle perfectly, but I'm willing to share how imperfect I am in that process in order to get where I was trying to go, which was to and initially to release that 30 pounds. And now I'm down 45 pounds. And I'm super grateful
Congratulations.
for that. Thank you. But my point is that it's more about the journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Your
Right.
life should be a marathon. And a lot of people are having to sprint through their life because lives are shortened.
So you're providing like health coaching, life coaching. Before when you introduced your practice, you said a physician-led health coaching, right? And so we know that there's many health coaching offers in the marketplace. So
Mhm.
talk to me about some of the benefits of, you know, choosing a physician-led health coaching practice versus someone else.
Yeah, so physician led health coaching, in my mind, brings a completely different dynamic than conventional health coaching because your conventional health coach doesn't necessarily understand pharmaceuticals the way a doctor would. Your conventional health coach may be someone who has had their own journey and decided that they're so much in love with their own journey that now they want to help others, and that there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like there's a layer missing in that, because they don't understand your meds. They don't understand which med you might be on that might be causing you to gain weight that you need to talk to your doctor about. They don't have a way to be a conduit to your doctor so that they're having real conversations. Most doctors are not going to pick up the phone for a health coach. They're not. Um, they may take they may have their staff take a message, and you may or may not hear back from that doctor just because of their concept of what a health coach is or is not. Whereas most physicians will call back another physician, especially in the realm of, I'm talking about Mrs. Jones and I'm seeing her in this way, and she asked for me to reach out to you so that we can collaborate on her care. That's a very different situation than your conventional health coach who's maybe just not writing prescriptions, but just erecting a plan for you based on maybe certain calories or what have you. I don't have a health coach certification. I don't think I need one.
Right.
But I have much respect for the health coaches who have gone through and actually gotten a certification, because that means they're beholden to something and not just what
Absolutely.
their own thoughts are.
Yeah, and I'm a huge advocate for, not having gone through conventional training to provide some type of service that you yourself have experienced, because there is that purpose and that passion connected to it.
Yeah.
However, I do believe in really allowing people to take accountability for themselves and their health. And if you've been served by a certain system and you're looking for a way to unlearn and move through it, it is important to take a step back and work with someone who is familiar with what you've already gone through, right? Just in general, it could be extremely dangerous not to. And working with a physician who completely understands where you've been and is working with you to try to move out of it, I think is top tier, right? The only, and what I'm hearing when you're having the conversation is that you are their advocate, right? You're advocating on behalf of them. So if you're coming from a space that you are trained in and you've been in, you understand all of these components, you can go into that space, have that conversation with the physician as a fellow physician and say, here, I want to be, I want to not only be an advocate for the patient, but also, a colleague to the physician on all working together to really get the results that ultimately the patient is looking for.
Mhm.
One of the questions that I have though is, do you think that your conventional training in medicine, does that affect your decision process when you are caring for them, in the lifestyle medicine space? So, what I'm saying is, do you think some of that holds you back in any way, or do you try to kind of overcome that to really look at it from a different lens? Because sometimes our training is actually what holds us back.
Yeah, that's a very fair question. What I would say is, I've always thought that medicine deserved a lifestyle approach first.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't have the tools to have those discussions in the way that I do now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say that medicine is not important and pharmaceuticals is not important. It absolutely is. I don't tell anybody I'm taking them off of their meds. I tell them, if you are committed to the goal that you say you're committed to, then there's possibility for you to be on less medicine. And hallelujah, if we can get you off of something, that's
Mm-hmm.
great. Um, Doctors don't like prescribing medicines any more than y'all like taking them. Um, and so I don't think it holds me back. I think I've become empowered
Okay.
to to recognize that my vision wasn't crazy 20 years ago.
That's good.
Oh. And I certainly understand both sides of the coin. And I really do love being in the messy middle of it all, because helping somebody figure out their why as to why they can't overcome something, why they can't give up their sugar, why they can't do whatever the thing is, that the self-limiting belief that they have given themselves, or why they automatically have to be diabetic because everybody in their family is. No, you don't. Diabetes is not genetic. It is environmental. And it only offers an opportunity for people to learn that they have more power within themselves than they actually realize. And that's what lifestyle medicine offers for me to offer to other people.
Yeah, when I'm visualizing your practice, I'm visualizing you as an extension of essentially primary care. So if someone has a primary care physician and they are seeing their primary care physician for their basics, right, their labs and everything else, but the care that you were providing to your patients, right, where you're spending all of that time with them, their primary care physician just doesn't simply have the time or probably the investment that you have at, certifying in lifestyle medicine to actually provide that care. So if
Mhm.
someone is like, okay, I'm going to come to my PCP for the basics, but I'm actually looking to change my entire lifestyle. I want to become healthier. I want to lose weight. And I want someone who has the same education level as my physician, who's also a physician that can help me, turn my entire, lifestyle around, then you're an extension of them, right? Of the PCP is okay. Well, here is someone that can come in and pretty much pick up where this office visit leaves off to help you really uncover your goals, come up with a plan tailored to your goals, and actually work with you and guide you through the process and help you execute it. So instead of looking for a health coach that's independent of the work that you're doing with your physician, you guys can essentially all work together.
Right. And so, yeah. And that's how I see it. I see it as an opportunity to customize and personalize lifestyle prescriptions, because that's what they are. I'm still
Hmm.
writing prescriptions, they're just not for pharmaceuticals.
That is so cool. So I
Um,
I used to work in pharma, by the way, and I
yeah.
actually left pharma
Mm,
to focus on helping holistic practitioners grow. So I was actually the ones educating the physicians on the pharmaceutical. And I just realized one day, like, wow, I want to leverage my experience and work with physicians in a different way to help physicians like you who wanted to create holistic services but didn't have the time or the space to do that independently. And I realized that back then, and that's essentially why I left my own career. So
yeah.
I love that you said, so that's why that made me smile, is like I'm still writing prescriptions but it's in a different way. That's
Yeah. It's
amazing.
so much in a different way.
Yeah.
And it, it really is customized. Like, I literally listen to the discussion of the patient, client, I guess now, technically,
Hmm.
and they're driving the bus. I'm just here in support with
Hmm.
the tools. So, where do you want to start?
Hmm.
Like, if this is your goal and these are where you're struggling, which one of these things do you want to start with? And then we have a dialogue in terms of, okay, well, if you want to start with X, I'm not sure that's going to get you all the way to where you want to go. We can absolutely do that. I want you to start where the low hanging fruit is, because you're
Hmm.
going to have the most success there. And that's
Hmm.
what I learned about my own health journey, is I started with a whole food plant-based diet because I was at home.
Hmm.
But over those years, or certainly over that first year, I stacked all of those habits. I didn't start them all at once. Nobody
Right.
can do that. That's, January 2nd stuff. None of that works.
Right. Right. Right.
But as I felt really confident and comfortable in one pillar, I was just willing to take on another. And I
Hmm.
wasn't, and I did it unafraid and unapologetically. And I gave myself grace through the entire thing. And that's what I want people to experience, is that you can do hard things. They don't have to be hard when you're not alone.
Right. Absolutely. Um, when a patient comes to you, I know everyone's different, their profile is different. Is there a certain time frame that they work with you? Because I know lifestyle is a never-ending journey, right?
It-
So do they come in spurts? Do you come when, do they see you when there's a need, or is it something that's continuing? How does that work? That
Yeah.
relationship work?
Yeah. So ideally, our relationship works in a couple different ways. I have programs that are already sort of set up that are timed. Like I have a 6 month program. We meet every 2 weeks via Zoom, Teams, whatever. You get digital handouts. You're doing assessments. So, I mean, you have some homework, like
Hmm.
maybe a half hour, an hour worth of homework a week, or
Hmm.
every 2 weeks, excuse me, so that we can keep up with what you're doing, what's working, what's not working, and we're customizing and personalizing every visit.
Hmm.
We're giving you some smart goals if that aligns with like how you're motivated, and we're talking about like how do you want to be communicated with. Are you a text person? Are you an email person? Are you just you want to check in like once a week? Again, all customized and personalized. But so there's a 6 month program. I do have a 4 month program. I'm sorry. The 6 month program, excuse me, focuses on all 6 pillars. So we touch every single pillar. There's a validated assessment from the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, that I, as a diplomat, I have access to use. We have a short form. We have a long form. So we're assessing all of those things periodically. And as we take on one thing and we kind of dial in one thing, okay, what's the next thing you'd like to add? You're doing an awesome job with X. What
Hmm.
would you like to? But you're not quite at your goal. So what do we want to do next? Kind of thing.
Hmm.
There, I also have a 4 month program, which is much more set up for the person who really just wants to start with nutrition. And as you start to potentially lose some weight, I add a strength training component to that. Um, and then for people who just want to sort of dip their toe in, I've got some like sessions that are sort of one off, or you can bundle 5 of them for a certain price.
I
So
love
those are
that.
kind of the tiers. Um, and quite honestly, I probably could consolidate the 6 month into a 4 month. And I've considered that because 6 months sounds like a long time to some people. And I get that. But really, it takes at least 3 to 4 months for your body to even recognize that you're doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so, especially for people who want to take on more than one or two pillars, you
Right,
need a longer period of time to do that.
right.
And so that's how it's tiered at the moment. But I'm a new practice. I'm open to working with people, figuring out what works, what doesn't. I'm open to feedback because I think feedback is super important in terms of how things are going. But I expect you to bring as much to the table as I am in
Right.
terms of your motivation and your willingness to change. And we troubleshoot the things that are holding you back. I try to offer people, especially if they're here locally. I have access to wellness events. I'm connected with an organization called Health Made Simple, and we put on women's wellness events that are home events. We also do them in venues, but we're talking about wellness and around a certain topic.
Hmm.
And a lot of those are either no cost or low cost or free, excuse me, events.
I love
Um,
that. Where are you located?
I'm in Columbia, South Carolina.
In South Carolina. Awesome. Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. And
And then public speaking and things like that
oh,
are
that's good.
also part of it. So people, whoever's in my space has access to all of those things. I share all of that information, and you get to pick and choose what you want to be involved in. There's no shame for me in any way. I'm just here to be as supportive as possible.
And you can see your clients like nationwide, right? They don't have to be specific. Okay.
Yes, because I'm not practicing medicine. I'm
Right.
helping things. So yes, I can see anybody from anywhere.
And where are the majority of your clients coming from? Are they coming from are they PCP referrals?
Yeah, so currently they are PCP referrals. I have had some beautiful podcast conversations like this and have received some referrals from those
Good.
kinds of venues as well. So I appreciate that. I always
I love
appreciate the
that.
opportunity to share.
I love that. So we'll go into our, I have just a few questions for you.
Yeah.
Before I do that, I noticed do you need a little water?
I I've got some.
Yeah, I just don't want you to, I don't want to dry you out. I'm like, let me get her,
No.
let me get her some water really quick.
Yeah, thanks.
Ah, of course, of course. Okay. So the last thing I want to go in is just to kind of wrap up your journey so far and what I know that this is a new venture for you, so this full of excitement and congratulations on the opening of your practice. This sounds like a great opportunity. But I'm really curious, like first and foremost, now that you're going through the transition, I know that it's still early in the process,
Mhm.
but what do you think that you've sacrificed so far?
Oh, what did I sacrifice? I I tend to think of my cup as more full, but
Yeah.
I've sacrificed the benefit of people just placing humans in front of me.
Mm,
So now now I'm the one figuring out marketing and sales and where what spaces to be in because I really, like I said, I want everybody to be well, but I really want people who are interested in their wellness from a holistic standpoint.
hmm
If I've already done the part of my career where you come in and you want me to throw a pill at you, and then you want to call me 2 weeks later and tell me you have a side effect from said pill and that you're miserable and you don't want to do the things. I also have had patients that want to do the things.
Yeah.
And I found myself more lit up by that.
hmm
So that's probably the biggest thing. And of course, I don't have a steady paycheck at the moment because I'm not working for a hospital system. But um, I've never felt more peace.
Oh, yes.
um, and so there's something to be said for peace.
Mm,
Um, and I know that the rest of it is coming.
hmm
I feel like if COVID taught us anything, it's that the people that fared the best were those who engaged in their wellness. They
hmm
were the people who didn't have as many chronic medical problems. They were the people who slept. They were the people who actually fueled their bodies better than the ones that succumbed. And I
hmm
hate that.
hmm
And we're that's not the last pandemic we're going to see.
hmm
So I feel like it was a wake up call in a lot of ways. And medicine is moving in a position where they want people to engage in lifestyle because now hospital systems in the next 5 to 7 years, doctors are going to be graded on your A1C
hmm
and paid less for your visit if it's not at a certain level, even though
Wow.
they're doing the same amount of work. So it behooves
What
us as
do they want it to be lower or higher? I don't
they want to be
understand.
lower. They want to be lower. So, as an example, normal A1C is below 5.7, right?
hmm
Um, if our current guidelines are if your A1C is around 9, your doctor sort of gets this report that says you're not treating your diabetics well enough, even though you're doing all the things that you can do. And from a population model, they're looking at paying doctors less for those visits. So you're going to do the same amount of work, but get paid less because the patient chose to eat donuts.
Wow.
How is that fair? How is that fair? And so, in my mind, if that's where we're going, that's not what I went into medicine for, first of
Right.
all.
Yeah.
And if we can help patients, clients, whatever we want to call them, understand that it doesn't have to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy, but it doesn't have to be hard. It can be simple and practical. And you can just take 2 steps to the left
Mm-hmm.
and be on less medicine. Why not share that with people?
Right. Interesting. So, have you had to? Have you ever? I mean, maybe this is because you said you always look at the cup half full. So, but have you thought about like your definition of success at any point and having to redefine it?
Yeah, I have. And I think that's a work in progress. We should all be a
Hmm.
work in progress in
Yeah.
terms of that. But I think that my definition of success is really to leave the world better than I came into it,
Mm.
and to have more impact in the medical space than I could in conventional medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say that from time to time I've done some locums and I've done some things. I still stick my toe in conventional medicine sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want that to be my entire life,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like watching people get sicker and sicker despite the best medicine I know how to use is unfulfilling and not
Mm-hmm.
why I went into medicine at all.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's about impact, and it's about impact on a different level. I love the one to one doctor patient relationship, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But in the current medical model, it doesn't afford me, and I'm long winded, it doesn't afford me
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity to give people what I think they need, or what they're telling me they want. More importantly, what they're telling
Mm-hmm.
me they want. And so taking it outside of that model is just where I am at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe 5 to 7 years from now, classic medical model will catch up.
Right.
And because now there's lifestyle medicine residencies, there's not that many, but there are a
Mm-hmm.
few.
Mm-hmm.
And so the pivot is happening, but there's a whole lot of layers to get through. I mean,
Right.
hospital systems still have McDonald's and Chick-fil-A's in them and Burger Kings and
Yeah.
whatnot. We got a lot of layers of stuff to walk through.
Right.
The meal that your heart attack patient is given directly after their cath is not a heart healthy meal at most
Right.
hospitals.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of work to do. And until we get there, it's the onus is upon each one of us to decide what we want our health to look like, one meal at a time.
I love that. And so I'm just envisioning, someone, because I just remember a story of someone being in the hospital and being fed an unhealthy meal after going through something very drastic. And I'm wondering, for those listening who are interested in lifestyle medicine, but want to be cared for by a physician, what would you say to someone who doesn't trust the medical system through their own experiences but do want to work with someone with this type of training? Like, what would you say to them? Because I could see someone wanting to go the alternative route just because they don't want anything to do with the hospital system.
Mhm.
But we have to know that there's people who've dedicated their whole careers to this, right?
Mhm.
This is not a hobby. This is you're dedicating your life to doing something like this. So how do you gain their trust after you leave conventional medicine?
Yeah, I think you have to talk to a doctor and decide if you vibe. Honestly,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think you have to decide if you I think that's the most important thing. I think you have to have a discussion, and I think you have to understand the framework that provider is looking to offer you. You
Hmm.
also have to be ready to do it outside of the conventional medical model. If you're wanting to be outside the conventional model, then you have to realize that paying for wellness is how that's going to work.
Correct. Yeah.
And you can't have it both ways. You can't want to work with a health coach or a physician led health coach and expect a $15 copay. That $15 copay is how you got where you are in terms of frustration or whatever reason that you're leaving that model. And so people are paying billions of dollars for wellness. People are paying to be shot with GLP-1s that they're not even sure are GLP-1s by Lord knows who. For $500, $600, $700 a visit.
Right.
By somebody you don't even know is certified to shoot you with it. And so I think you have to be very careful about embracing outside forces regardless. Whether it's a conventional health coach, whether it's, the chiropractor who's now offering GLP-1s or whatever, if that's important to you, you've got to do your own homework and you've got to be comfortable. But I can tell you in my space, I don't have any interest in telling you what to do. I have an interest in walking with you in where your goals are. And that's the difference.
Right.
That I see and the impact. And when doctors are happy with what they're doing, they show up better.
Absolutely.
They do.
Well, thank you so much. This is very informative. I absolutely love the conversation. I picked up on so many different pieces that really resonate to, the journey from career to calling and everything that goes on in between. Your first kind of awareness in knowing that things needed to change happened over 18 years ago, and that shows that this journey is not linear, right? And there's so many different instances that happen throughout our lives where we do have these like mini awakenings that kind of lead us towards where we're going, and then ultimately some type of event that ultimately helps us make that decision, whether for ourselves, right, but or the decision is made for us, right, and really kind of coming into this path. And I think that the most important part of it is just to show that everybody's different, everybody's journey is unique, but ultimately if you have a desire to go somewhere, you're going to get there no matter what. And so trusting the process and using your intuition is so important. And then also just kind of stepping into lifestyle medicine. Thank you for sharing just more in what it encompasses. I think that there's two ways that we look at it when it comes to really pursuing healing. You have somebody who is essentially waiting for that breaking point, and something life changing happens to their health where they really decide to wake up and do something about it, right? And essentially when we're talking about those things, we're talking about the low hanging fruit, unfortunately. But also I also speak about some of the times where the people who need your services the least are actually going to work with you the most, and people who really are proactive in their health and willing to make that investment in their wellness, to really look at their entire lifestyle. So I know that your practice is physician led, and PCP referrals may and some of your patients come from PCP referrals, but there is opportunity for people who are really focused on their wellness, that really wants a professional and expert to guide them through their journey and commit to them, for the long run, and support that's not being provided for them in conventional spaces. And I definitely see where new empowerment health is going to be able to provide support in that space. So thank you so much for answering your calling, and creating the courage to actually make this happen for not only yourself but also for your patients and your clients for years to come. The last thing that I want to ask from you is for any advice that you've had on this journey so far, for someone who is in that position to where they know that they need to make a change, and they're on the verge of making that decision. Like, what advice would you give to them?
That's a good question. I would say listen to your intuition. I mean, if it's screaming, don't ignore it. Don't necessarily act on it until you're sure, but Or and even not even if you're sure. I wouldn't say that because I don't think people walk into entrepreneurship sure. That's not fair. What I would say is if you're listen to your gut. If your gut's telling you it's time to pivot, then don't push it down. Marinate in it and see if it's, why? Why do I think I need to pivot? Is I'm frustrated with my boss? Is it that, people are on my nerves? Is it that I'm really unfulfilled and I feel like my career is sucking all of my values out of my system? Is it, whatever it is, take the time to analyze it and recognize that your feelings are valid, regardless of what your career is. Your feelings are so valid. And then start to walk in decision after that. But that's the biggest thing is I probably should have listened to my gut a long time ago, but I didn't necessarily have the tools. I didn't have the tools. And I do believe that everything happens in God's time. Um, but I feel like there were probably times when I got the nudge and I either out of fear or out of conditioning didn't just realize that I wasn't ready to do all the things. And so that would be what I would say is just listen for the stillness and know that you're not crazy. You're not crazy in it at all.
I love
Not
that.
at all.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Dr. Patrice High. I really appreciate you joining us. So impactful, and I just appreciate you accepting my invitation to connect. Thank you guys so much for listening in this week. My name is Bianca Ariel. I'm the founder of Recalibrated Vision, and I want you guys to always and forever remember to stay free. See you next week.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna